I think it's time for another iPad buying guide. Okay, this video is tempting fate, I admit, because in the past I've published videos about Apple stuff and then Apple has done something immediately afterwards that has made that video completely irrelevant. So I want to timestamp this particular opening. It is ironically and annoyingly Friday the 13th, of course it is, of September 2024. And at the moment, at the time of filming, we don't have any recent iPad announcements. Nothing. We have had new iPhones, iPhone 16, we've had new AirPods, we've had kind of a new pair of AirPods Max, and we've had a new Apple Watch. But Apple hasn't done anything at the time of filming in terms of the iPad lineup. However, it struck me the other day that I've got 4 iPads in this studio they're a very interesting collection, put it that way, and I use 2 of them basically, but the rest, in fact, as a collection, it's just a really interesting talking point because they kind of span most of the product line, and for that reason I thought I'd make a kind of semi-iPad buying guide because it's a really interesting time to buy an iPad, and there's one iPad in particular which is still causing people a lot of buying reluctance and fear, and I'd love to try and overcome that today. So if you're thinking about buying an iPad now, this is the video to watch. If you watch this video and think, Mark, they've sorted this out, something's happened and you're old news, then please keep watching. Just give it a thumbs up anyway, just because why not? It's Friday the 13th. Before we get into this video, just a very quick word from today's sponsor, which is Paperlike. And basically one thing that all of these iPads in front of me have in common is the fact they have a Paperlike screen protector applied, and it does 2 things. The first thing is it protects the screen, obviously, because that's the name, but equally to do with the name is the fact that it turns the surface of the iPad, of the display, into something that feels like paper. And if you use your iPad for writing, drawing, sketching, anything basically, you need a Paperlike. It's as simple as that. And if you're worried about it dulling the colours and making the screen look rubbish, it doesn't. It's still vibrant and looks beautiful as it did before. And secondly, if you're worried about applying the Paperlike, trust me, if I can do it, and I've done it countless times without any problem, you don't need to worry. Paperlike do loads of other stuff as well. They have a brilliant screen cleaner. They've got this fantastic pencil grip for the Apple Pencil. It's a no-brainer. Every single iPad that comes into this studio, and there's been a lot, has a Paperlike screen protector applied immediately, and that's for very good reason. So if you want to find out more about Paperlike, just click that link in the description. Let's start with the 10th generation iPad, and just a very quick caveat here that I bought this when it was the 10th generation iPad, so it sat somewhere in a really weird place between the entry level, the 9th generation, and the iPad Air and kind of the iPad mini. It was a weird product which I couldn't quite get my head around. I did buy one just to review, and it proved incredibly popular in terms of views and engagement, so I found that interesting. I think the reason it was so popular is because a lot of people could probably foresee what was going to happen with this. Apple definitely could. So what's happened since then is that they've made this the base model iPad. So the 9th generation, the one with the physical home button and the massive bezels, has gone. You can't buy that anymore from Apple directly. Instead, if you want to spend the least amount of money possible on an iPad, you get this. And at £349 in the UK and $349 in the US, I think it's an absolute bargain. It's running the A14 chip, which, yes, is getting a little bit long in the tooth these days, but that doesn't matter. You know, Apple is still selling this, they'll support it for a long time, and like any Apple silicon that's placed into iPads, it will last forever. Not forever. It will just last a very long time. These things are so overpowered. This one feels as fresh as the day I bought it, so you won't have any issues there whatsoever. It's got the modern design, so it's got the home buttonless design. Yes, the bezels are a little bit thick, but again, 350 quid. If you just want an iPad and you don't want to spend a load of money on it, get one of these. The other great thing about it is that it has the absolute best, ironically, Magic Keyboard on the market, which is the Magic Keyboard Folio. So it comes in 2 pieces. You have this bit here, which acts as a stand and a kind of protective case on its own. Lovely. But work. It does work. There we go. It has a keyboard, obviously, with a trackpad, with a function key row. That's brilliant. I wish the iPad Pro had that keyboard, but it doesn't. So the 10th generation iPad, I think, is an absolute no-brainer for most people, unless you want something more powerful or smaller. There's a reason I've made so much content about this, and it's because I love it. I think it's the best iPad Apple has ever made. No, it's not the cheapest. No, it's not completely faultless. It has issues, but the size of it, and for me, the usability, the usefulness of this iPad has made it the only iPad actually in this studio that has lasted for several years. Most of them get replaced, or I just don't use them very often. This gets used every single day for note taking, for sitting just out of shot on these videos with all of my bullet points for waffling on. It's just such a lovely thing. There's just one massive problem with it, and that is the fact this came out in September 2021, which is a long time ago in terms of technology. The issue with the iPad mini in particular is that since then we've had new iPad Airs, we've had the 10th generation iPad, the iPad Pro has been through a couple of different generations, they've all got new chips, new screen technology, new cameras. This hasn't changed at all. It hasn't even had a minor chip spec bump. If you buy an iPad mini 6 today, it's the same one that came out in 2021. And it still costs 500 quid in the UK and $500 in the US. And that's for the 64 gig version, which isn't enough. If you want the 256 gig version, which is the only other storage option, you're talking serious money for an iPad that is pretty old. It's a real problem because I know so many people want this. The reason I make so many videos about it is because I keep getting comments pretty much every day saying, when's the iPad mini 7 coming out? Should I buy the iPad mini 6? My latest buying guidance for this, at the time of filming, remember this is the 13th of September that I'm filming this. By the time this video goes out, we might have an iPad mini 7. If that's the case, just buy it. Just get it. Whatever Apple has done with it, just buy it because it will be fantastic. If that hasn't happened, wait. And what I mean by that is wait until at least mid-December. If you really want to buy the iPad mini 6, don't buy it until after mid-December because I think, and I've got nothing to back this up, this is just a hunch on my behalf, I think if we don't see the new iPad mini 7 this month in September or October or November, we're not going to see it ever again. I think that is the iPad mini done. I don't think we'll see an iPad mini 7 in 2025. I think they have to do it this year, and the rumours are fairly strong. I want this video to go out of date. I want it to be the case that you're watching this and there's an iPad mini 7 and you've got one, I've got one, and there's probably a video or 2 or 3 or 5 on my channel reviewing that thing. That isn't the case. I don't think we'll see it ever again. So if you're desperate to buy this and we don't have the iPad mini 7 just yet, wait until mid-December, and if nothing happens then, you may as well get this one. Okay, so what if you need more power with your iPad? Well, you go for the iPad Pro, obviously. This is the M4 11-inch version, and it's my main iPad. So I use this every day. I use it for writing, for Slack, for email, and for lots of other stuff that you don't need an iPad Pro for, to be honest. But I fell in love with this when I got a review unit from Apple. They sent me one at the time of the M4 launch, and I was just blown away. And this is from someone who did not understand the 11-inch iPad Pro originally. I couldn't work out why you'd buy one of these when there's an iPad Air, which is just about as good. And to be honest, my buying guidance is still the same with that. So if you're looking at the iPad Pro, the 11-inch version, and you're thinking, oh, it looks nice, but it's a bit too much money, just get the iPad Air. And the same thing with the 13-inch version as well, because you can now get a 13-inch M2 iPad Air. Just get the iPad Air. It's a brilliant, brilliant iPad. However, the more I used this, the more I realised that I loved the ProMotion display, which is a big deal. It's an OLED display as well, and you can tell the difference. And Face ID, that makes a big difference as well. The fact that you don't have to put your finger on the power button to log in, which became muscle memory after I've been using the iPad Air for a while. But okay, you're paying quite a premium for those two features. The other thing you're getting, however, is the M4 chip. And no one knows how to use the M4 chip in this. It's absolutely impossible. But all of that headroom just means this lasts for longer and longer and longer. And I think because Apple Silicon has gone so far ahead of everything else, where every year we get these massive M chip updates, the chip in here, I think this is going to be one of those iPads that lasts the longest ever. And that's saying a lot for an iPad. I think in terms of value for money, you're actually getting quite a lot with the 11-inch iPad Pro. That is my iPad of choice. I do pair it with the Logitech Combo Touch keyboard case, which I can show you some footage of now, which is a fantastic and cheaper alternative to the Magic Keyboard from Apple. But yeah, if you're looking at the iPad Pro, you've got two options. You've either got this one or you've got the big one. This is the big one. This is the M2 13-inch iPad Pro, and it was my daily iPad before I fell in love with the M4 11-inch version. This is a cumbersome piece of kit, but it's for a very specific user, and I think I've worked out who that person is. It's not, firstly, if you are like me. If you're very easily swayed by big, shiny things, and you pick one of these up and you think, wow, this is amazing, it's probably not for you, because I can guarantee you'll get it. Well, firstly, you'll buy one of these. You'll buy the Magic Keyboard, which makes it even more expensive. You'll get home, you'll put it into the Magic Keyboard, you'll think, whoa, this is amazing. Then you'll close it, you'll pick it up and think, that's heavy. Then that evening you'll go to bed, you'll take the iPad out of its Magic Keyboard, and you'll be lying in bed and you'll be thinking, this is way too big. It'll be really, really annoying. If that's you, just get the 11-inch iPad Pro or the 11-inch iPad Air. The person who I think this iPad is for is the sort of person who wants to go iPad only, but who doesn't like the idea of losing screen estate. So if you've gone from a MacBook, for instance, or from a Windows PC or a Windows laptop to an iPad, if you go to the 11-inch version of an iPad, it's going to feel very squeezed. If you go to the 13-inch version, it isn't, because it's probably going to be the same sort of size as your Mac or your Windows laptop. If that's you and you're committed to going iPad only, you need the big one. The only question is, do you go for the M1, the M2 or the M4 iPad Pro 13-inch? I think you should go for the M4 if you have a big budget and you want the absolute best of the best and you want the most longevity possible. If that's not you and the budget is a little bit squeezed, just get the M2. The M1 I'd probably leave for now. The M2 iPad Pro, this one, I think is, well, it's a bargain now, because you can pick it up for pretty good money if you shop around, and it's just as good as the M4 version. It's just a little bit closer to the end of the line of support. It will be at some stage, obviously, but that's still quite a long way away. So if you want the great big 13-inch iPad Pro, just get the M2 version, or just get the 13-inch iPad Air, because that is really good, and the only two things you really lose are Face ID and ProMotion, and a lot of people can live without those. Now, this might not be the most in-depth that you've watched this year, but it does come from someone who, as you can see, has access to a lot of iPads and who has a lot of experience using them. So I think if you put my advice against your gut feeling, and you have got a gut feeling, you've probably made your decision already. You're just watching videos like this to make sure you're making the right decision. If you combine those two things, I think you'll land on the iPad that's right for you. And the great thing about the iPad is that it's very unlikely that you'll be disappointed, because they're all incredibly fast. They're very, very well designed. They last a long time. And because of Apple Silicon, you'll never buy one and think, oh, I wish I'd spent more money and got the faster one. You'll never think that. So whichever iPad you go for, you'll love it, trust me. So let me know which iPad you're going for in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a quick thumbs up, because it helps this channel massively. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. And while you're still here, hang around for a video, or a link to a video, where I talk about the latest AirPods Max update.